to look across and to be lost and to not know what's next and to worry about the unknown. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know how long this will last. We don't know the lasting effects that this will have. We can speculate, but speculation is dangerous. It takes us to places that we really don't know, and it causes more anxiety, more concern, and more panic. We know the one who knows, and we trust him. Rest in him. And so today, I want to take us and help us focus as we move forward. Remember what Peter said at the end of 1 Peter that we just finished. He told the church, you're not alone in your suffering, in your struggles, in your trials, you're not alone. We're all in this together. Now, probably more than ever, we're reminded of the fact that we need each other. While we may not be able to gather in person, while we may not be able to tangibly be with each other, we can stay connected. We can stay connected by phone, by text, by prayer. We can stay connected. Please, in this time, do not be isolated, either mentally, relationally, spiritually. Take time to think about how you can stay connected with your brothers and sisters in this church, even in the midst of social distancing. Today we're going to look at a passage that's probably familiar to most of you. It's Mark 4, 35 through 41. Mark 4, 35 through 41. Let me read it. On that day when evening came, he said to them, "Let us go to the other side." And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. And the other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was great calm. And he said to them, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, "Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Remember, as we read this is the word of the Lord. This is as if God himself is speaking to us. We often read this passage and we're amazed, and rightly so. Imagine the disciples, right? They're in this boat, they're in a familiar scenario, the waves are crashing in, they're perishing. Like they know that the boat's going to sink, they're soaking wet, and there's Jesus on the back of the boat asleep. So they're freaking out. And in this passage, we see that Jesus has the power over all creation. He has the ability to speak to the wind, "Stop," and it stops. He has the power to stop COVID-19. He has the power to stop it, but there's no guarantee that he will. And in fact, if you look at history, it tells us that he probably won't. And so the point of this story is not that Jesus will calm the storms in your life. The point of this passage is not that Jesus will make nature nice. That's not what it's telling us. The point is not that he will miraculously stop the spread of this virus. If this isn't the point, what is? I want to draw your attention to two specific areas in this passage. See the panic in the disciples' statement to Jesus. In verse 38, he was asleep on the couch, on the cushion, and they said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we're perishing?" God, don't you care that all of this is going on? God, don't you care that people are getting sick? God, don't you care that people are dying? The wind and the waves were overtaking them. The virus is spreading. Right? There's a lot of parallels between their story and ours today. They were afraid because they had no control over nature. And Jesus was sleeping. The storm was raging. The waves were crashing in over and onto the boat, and they were getting wet. These boats weren't very big. They were soaked, and they were certain that they were going to die, and Jesus was calmly sleeping. The disciples did not see Jesus' lack of action, his calmness. They didn't see that in trust. In fact, it was the exact opposite. They saw Jesus' his peace, his comfort, and they feared. And they were afraid, and they said, Jesus, don't you care about us? See, brother and sister, we can look at God's apparent lack of action, and we can think that He doesn't care. We can think that He's not involved. We can think that we're on our own. Instead of taking comfort in His sovereignty, in His power, and in His love, we question Him and we question His goodness. See, Jesus' response to the disciples, why are you so afraid? We see this in verse 40. Why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? There's much more to this question than what's on its face. He knew why they were afraid. He knew that they were afraid because of the storm around them, because of the wind, because of the waves. All he had to do was look around and understand why they were afraid. But there's so much more to this question. The question that Jesus was really asking was, why don't you trust me? See, their fear was in their circumstances, and it showed their lack of faith in God. It showed their lack of trust in Jesus. And his second question confirms this. Have you still no faith? Disciples, the water is crashing around you. The boat looks like it's sinking. Brothers and sisters, the virus is around us. It's spreading, and it looks like society is sinking. We're afraid that we may get it, that we may pass it on to our loved ones, and rightly so, and we need to be careful. But as we struggle as a society to figure out the new normal in light of COVID-19, we are faced with the same questions as the disciples. Do we lack faith? Why are we afraid? We can panic and be afraid because we don't know what's going to happen. The world is watching us. The world is watching the church, the one who is supposed to have the answers, who is supposed to trust in God, to know that God is in control. The world is watching us. The world is waiting to see if we really trust in God. How do we respond? Let us rest in the one who created all things. Let us rest in the one who loves us more than we can imagine. Let us trust in the one who suffered on our behalf, who is not asleep, who is not out of control, but the one who gave his life for us so that we might have peace in him, so that we know him, so that we trust him. If we have learned anything over the past few weeks, it's that we are not in control. We are not in control. Again, we had planned on being at CVCA, a new location. There was a lot of excitement. We were ready to go. And the new location, at least in the short term, is completely different than what we had anticipated. We don't know what tomorrow brings. And that's okay. That's okay. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but we know the one who does. And we trust him.